Hey guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service, and I am very excited to be joined by Ian Anderson Gray. Ian, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Mike.
Fantastic. Now, Ian is going to talk to us about live video, specifically around confidence and getting in front of the camera, which I'm very excited about. It's something that I've found great success with, and I love Ian's stuff. I constantly watch him on LinkedIn, particularly. Ian, for those who don't know you, who's IAG? That's how I remember the website. Who's Ian Anderson Gray?
Oh, well, it depends on how deep you want to go.
Let's go deep, man. Let's go real deep. Yeah.
Well, I do a number of different things. I mean, one of the things I do these days is I continue to run a web agency. So we maintain and host websites. That ticks along nicely in the background. But my main focus these days is helping businesses and entrepreneurs level up their impact and authority using live video confidently. And I think confidently is the really important thing. Now, my background, I mean, I grew up as a bit of a geek in the days when being a geek wasn't really good and cool. So I loved science and technology, but I also had a passion for music. And when I was getting towards the end of school, I had to make a decision. Would I go down the science and tech route, or would I go down the music route? And so I made the decision to go down the music route, and I ended up training as a professional singer.
No way.
So,
I completely out of left field. All right.
Yeah. So I studied at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester as a singer. So I then went on to set up a web agency. We started off doing that for musicians, realized pretty early on that musicians don't have any money, bad choice. But we make those mistakes, and it's a learning process. I started blogging in early 2012, and that changed my business, changed my life. I ended up being asked to speak at Social Media Marketing World, which is the biggest social media conference in the world, which blew my mind. And then I had this kind of decision to make. I had this kind of identity crisis, because who was Ian Anderson Gray? And that's why I asked you how deep you want to go, because I thought, am I a musician? All that training that I did as a professional singer, or am I helping people with the tech? Am I a consultant? Am I an entrepreneur? And it was when I was up on stage at Social Media Marketing World, and this mad thing, we basically, there's a number of us who are quite musical, went on stage at Social Media Marketing World, and we did a spoof musical on networking. You can probably find it on YouTube if you're interested. And I suddenly realized that I was marrying my passion as a performer with technology. And live video is, again, it's that amalgamation of getting in front of an audience and communicating a message and technology. But I also want to say, I probably, from an early age, I was quite shy, and I would describe myself as an introvert. So getting in front of an audience and getting in front of a camera seems quite a strange thing for me to do. But I say that because I'm sure there's a number of your audience who want to do live video, but maybe something's holding them back, and they're coming up with excuses. They're saying they're scared. They're saying they're an introvert. Oh, I couldn't possibly do that. And I'm saying to them, no, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Man, first of all, the music side is fascinating, partly because it seems to be rife in the world that we're in. I mean, Troy Dean from WP Elevation, big musician. There's a lot of people who are really into the music space, and then notice that there's a big similarity between, getting people to take action and, being an entrepreneur, and also an element of telling stories and performance and putting on a persona. So that's fascinating. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. So take me through, let's get straight into live video, because that's a lot of your content's based around that now. You do live video a lot. Your original Facebook Live connection app web page thing that you put together, I don't know if you remember that. It was like click here to broadcast. I used that all the time. It's not, in my opinion, the technology that people fear. It's getting in front of the camera, just like you said, that kind of that introversion thing. If I've even got an inkling that I want to do live video, where do I need to start? Like, what do I need to get going with that?
Yeah, and people have even less of an excuse with the technology because it's even easier. I mean, back in the days of that article, when I published that article, it was relatively difficult. You needed some software called OBS Studio. You need to click on this button. And that's why I wrote that article, and to try and make it easy for people. But these days, it's even easier. It's ridiculously easy. And I think people use technology as an excuse. And we all come up with excuses, don't we? I think when producing any form of content, but particularly live video, because it's you in front of the camera. And so there are only two things you need to go live. And I'm going to assume that 100% of people listening and watching this have these two things. The first thing is a smartphone, okay, which has a camera. Okay. Now, yes, you can take things to the next level, and I'm sure we'll talk about this. You can broadcast from your computer. There are loads of advantages in doing that. But that's the first excuse out of the way. You have that. The second thing is an internet connection. Now, I assume most people, everyone has that. There is one slight concern with the internet connection, and not everyone has a fast internet connection. And what's really important here is the upload speed. So I'm sure we've seen the adverts from these ISPs out there that say 200 megabits per second, and they go get really excited. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the upload speed. So if you've got an upload speed of 4 megabits per second, or ideally 5 or 6, then you should be absolutely fine. If you're getting 1 or 2, you might have some problems. But then just go somewhere else. 4G, so that is the first thing that you need to do to go live. So there's no excuse there.
And it's interesting that it's become so a part of our culture and whatever, that phone manufacturers are basically baking this technology into their equipment. Apps are now baking it in because they know that this is how people want to communicate and share stuff. So you're right. You don't even need specialist equipment now to start this journey and start doing this. So I'm glad that we managed to get over that hump. You don't need to spend any more money. You've probably got everything, right?
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm going to be totally honest here and authentic, which is kind of one of the big advantages with live video anyway, is being authentic. And I continually beat myself up. But we were kind of joking about this before we started recording the video, about we were kind of like comparing each other's like setup, and I've got this posh microphone. But I'm continually frustrated by my background. And but you see, I'm a big believer in bootstrapping your live video studio. Start simply. I started off with, I don't really want to disconnect myself. I started off with one of these, which is a Blue Yeti microphone, and I still recommend this today. It's great. It's you don't need one of these microphones here, which is the Heil PR40, which is quite expensive. And I'm still using a Logitech C920 webcam, which is fine. But I started off just with those two things, and then I added some lighting. The next thing I'll do is probably sort my background out, and but after that, it's going to be the camera. So start small. You don't need. At the end of the day, the most important thing about live video is you communicating to your audience. We all have a message. We all have this, and if you're coming up with all these excuses, then as somebody quite bluntly said to me one time at a mastermind roundtable event I was at, you're being selfish, when I was coming up with all these excuses. And it hit me hard, but I thought I was not sending out newsletters. I was not going live because I was worried that I was coming up with these other excuses. And so we need to stop it. We've got an audience out there that need to hear what we have to say, and they need to hear it, quite frankly, from us, because we're the perfect person for, our particular niche.
And as much as I assume that every human being in the world wants to hear from me, that's not true. And that's the biggest thing I'm trying to get across to my audience is people want to hear stuff about funnels in our particular case, or whatever your message and topic is, from your point of view, from your angle. Just because I've said it, I've only stolen it from Ryan Dice and Frank Kern and those guys. They've stolen it from guys, above them. It's about putting it out there through your lens and through your perspective. And like you said, it's for the sake of a smartphone, you can start doing that.
Well, that's such an important thing to say, because we all do this. We all I think most people suffer from comparison syndrome,
Yeah.
and we've talked about that. But, you know, I suffer from this in the live video world. Am I the only live video guy out there?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. There are plenty of people out there who know as much, probably more than what I know. But I am different. I have a different way of explaining things that's going to resonate with a particular audience. And so we just need to get over it and just, you know, focus on our audience and communicate our message to them and stop coming up with excuses. And it's easy for me to say, but I've been through that. I've been through the procrastination and the beating myself up thing. And now I'm just determined to get on with it.
Yeah, awesome. And it is procrastination as well.
Oh yeah.
When people go, I want to have the background like this. I'm going to wait until my next, like the Logitech Brio I get. I'm going to wait until I get the microphone. It's all procrastination. And I think use that as an excuse. The most common excuse I hear, and I'd be really interested to hear your take on this, is they basically want the video to look as good as they can. Problem, in my opinion, is they're comparing it to guys like Casey Neistat and Gary Vaynerchuk. And I'm like, well, if you have a team of 15 people,
yeah,
awesome. Like, how do I get over the worry that it doesn't look quite as awesome as their stuff?
Well, there's a couple of things there. First of all, your first dozen videos are going to look crap.
Good. yeah.
And you know what? Go back, do a search for Gary Vaynerchuk, episode 1, and look at his, because it's not really very good. So I think all these video guys, we all start somewhere, and I'm the worst person at this because, you know, I'm going to be launching a new show, live video and podcast in the next month or so, and I've been procrastinating about this because I want it to be perfect. And actually, I think my first episode is going to be about why it took so long for the first episode to go out. We all do it. So, but the best thing to do is just to go live, just to do it. And one of the big advantages with live video is that it doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, the fact that it isn't perfect is actually quite an attractive quality. There is this rebellion, in the words of Mark Schaefer. He's just got a new book out called Marketing Rebellion, which I highly recommend. And it is this rebellion against many things, but one thing with live video is overly polished marketing videos. And so people are really wanting to have the human side. And so actually getting in front of the camera, if things go wrong, it's actually quite fun. You know, we've all seen the BBC News thing with, was it the North Korean expert when his kids come in the room and stuff? You know, and you know, I've been on a live show where my co-host's cat jumped on the table and knocked over the webcam. It was hilarious. And you know, so I think just get started. And one thing I would recommend, the first thing I would do is take your phone out, go to your Facebook profile, and go to the live button at the top, which you've probably been looking at but not wanting to even touch the button. Press it and then change the privacy settings to only me. There's a little drop down.
Very cool.
Change it to only me. Now, I still do this today to test my lives, just to test my connection, test that everything's going well. And then go live. I mean, come up with some... We can talk about this in a minute, but obviously plan what you're going to say. Maybe come up with 2 or 3 points and go live. There will be nobody watching, but you can then watch it later. What I would recommend is, once you've entered the broadcast, wait at least a couple of hours and then watch it back. I think a buffer in between you pressing the end button and watching it again is really good, because if you watch it straight away, you are probably going to hate it. You're probably still going to hate it in a couple of hours' time. I mean, you know, unless you're a complete narcissist, who likes watching themselves on a video? But do that. And then this is the kind of the singer in me coming in here, which is come up with 3 positive things that you did in that. What did you do well? What was the really positive thing? And then come up with things that you can do better. It's really important to be constructive here, because I think we all treat ourselves very badly. If we were to treat ourselves, if we were to treat somebody else, like if we were being a consultant to somebody else and we treated them like we treat ourselves, we would be sacked in no time. So I like that. Do that a couple of times. The next stage, once you've done that, then the other thing you can do is to go live in a private group.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook is ideal for this. Find some other people who are willing to go live and set yourself a challenge. Maybe go live every single day for a week in the group. And the only people that will see it are in the group. And on the side, this isn't live video, but I love Instagram stories for this, because Instagram stories, they're not live video, but it's a way for you to get yourself in front of the camera for 15-second short snippets. And the great thing is, what's the worst that's going to happen? Because it only lasts for 24 hours. So that builds your consistency and commitment to it. It gets you a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera too.
I love that, the half-life of content. Well, speaking of animals, that's my dog in the background, by the way. So there we go. It's proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
The half-life of some of this content is so short now that I don't even worry about even YouTube content that I put out there, because I know that at best, people will either hate it or love it, and it will continue to grow. But chances are most of them won't be watched again. Like the half-life, particularly like you say on Instagram stories. So I love that, being able to kind of comfort yourself with that. So tell me about the planning side then. You mentioned when we go in, I love the group thing as well, finding 5 other people to do it with the group. What do we say?
Yeah, well, this is the other big barrier that people come up with, which is the content. But live video is no different to any other type of content. I mean, obviously the delivery is, but when you're planning to write a blog post, you come up with some ideas, you come up with a plan of what you're going to say. It's the same in any kind of platform. So come up with 3 or 4 points. It could be you're repurposing a blog post, something that you've already written. It could be a question that one of your customers has asked. And so come up with 3 points and go live with that. But there are different formats, different ways of doing the show. So for example, it could be a show format where you're in front of the camera and it's very structured, or it could be a little bit more of a impromptu one when you're kind of walking outside and it's just your thoughts. And depending on the kind of person you are, if you're very good at connecting your brain with your mouth and it all comes out beautifully, which doesn't always happen with me, then that's great. But for most of us, I think coming up with a plan of what you're going to say, just a very simple structure for people. The first thing that you should do when you go live, or the first thing you should not do, is ask if people can hear you. You need to start confidently.
Interesting.
If you've just gone live before, if you've just done a test, you know, going live just to yourself, watch that back, make sure that everything's working, and then go live to your audience. And straight away, the first people you should address are your replay viewers, because the likelihood is no one is going to be watching, none of your live viewers will have had the opportunity to click in the first 10 seconds. So say, thank you so much for watching the replay. In this video, I'm talking about, and then tell people what they're talking about. Because usually the number of people watching later is much more than the people who are watching live. So that's the first thing. And then obviously, hopefully at that point, you're starting to get some live viewers. Unless this is the first few videos that you're doing, in which case you may not get anyone. And don't worry about that. That's absolutely fine. Because you've got your replay viewers later. But if you are getting live viewers, greet them, say hello to them. People love to be named, but don't spend too long on that, because that's really boring for the replay viewers. So you've got to think about those 2 audiences at the same time. Then get straight into the content. And you can always say to the live viewers that if you've got any questions, you know, you can ask them to say, look, if you've got any questions, you want to get involved, please do that. But I will get back to you after my main segment, because I think at this point you need to focus and don't get distracted on what you're saying. Then you can, if you have any questions from your audience, you can then bring that into the live video, because that's one of the big advantages with live video. It's not only is it allowing you to be real, human, authentic, it also gives your audience access to you, so they can ask you questions and you can answer those questions live on air, which is great. The other reason for doing it that way, so structured, is that it allows you to repurpose for later. So you can then take that middle chunk and then maybe put onto YouTube. You can turn into a podcast. You can convert it into a blog post. And there are loads of tools out there such as rev.com that will allow you to transcribe it and convert into other content as well. So, and then the final thing, of course, is there needs to be a strong call to action. You need to tell people when you're next going live and tell people where they can find out more about you. The similar kind of thing that you do with any other type of content.
So, first of all, it had never occurred to me to address the replay viewers in the live call. That's, again, seems so obvious when you say to do that. What's interesting is you say, the first thing is you shouldn't say if people can hear you. I definitely do that. And the reason I do it is because I'm unconfident about doing it live, right? The structure then, if we just get straight into it, we address the replay viewers, we're also kind of talking to our audience. The big advantage I found is that as people continue to ask questions, and maybe you can shed a bit of light on this, ask questions on like the replay. The thing that I don't understand, this is predominantly on Facebook, is when is it displaying their questions? Because some questions and comments I seem to see on the replay, like straight from the start, and others seem to appear at a certain time. That's obviously like a timed feature, but I can't see what the difference is.
Yeah. So if they're commenting right from the start, then they're probably replay viewers because they weren't, unless you've scheduled it. So if you schedule your live video, you can schedule up to a week in advance, so people can start commenting on that post in advance. So they will appear as regular comments to the live video. If it's so, there's, I haven't checked this for a while, but it certainly used to be the case that you could tell the difference between comments that were left live and comments that were left afterwards. There was a red dot if they were live comments.
Maybe I just haven't seen that. That's interesting.
So I'll need to check that, because the thing about Facebook Live is Facebook change things all the time. Yeah. But that's certainly one thing. There is that distinction between the comments afterwards, and of course the other thing is we talked about repurposing, but and create. Enhancing the longevity, if that's the right phrase, of the post, making it evergreen. But go back and respond to comments as well in the post, because that's another way of creating like a bit of a mini community within your live video, which is important, because afterwards the live video becomes a regular uploaded as if it is a regular uploaded video. Yeah.
So, okay, so let's say that we regularly post, and maybe we have our own Facebook group already, and we're kind of regularly putting out content there now. If I want to move away from just using the phone, because something that I love doing is presenting webinars live, screen shares live. I know all the technology, but probably similar to yourself, I've tried 100 tools. 2 of them are worth anything and are good, and I've now stuck with them. If I want to get into sharing stuff in the group from my machine, which again I agree, I think that's probably the biggest jump maybe in live. Where do I start with that?
So the big advantages with going live from a computer, and you've mentioned most of them, is obviously you can share your screen, you can actually bring in guests, you can highlight comments on the screen, you can do some really cool stuff. But one thing I mentioned before is you only need 2 things, one of them being a phone, one of them being an internet connection. It's the bar's a little bit higher from desktop, so you do need a faster internet connection. 6, 7, possibly 10 megabits per second is a minimum, ideally. And your hardware, your computer, needs to be of a decent quality. So if you've got like a cheapo laptop or like a MacBook Air or something like that, you may struggle. It needs, for some of the high-end stuff, like a gaming PC or high-end MacBook Pro is probably okay. But the best thing is just to try it out. So that's the first thing I'd say. But then it comes down to the tools that you need. Actually, before the tools is the gear. So you could use your integrated webcam. As I mentioned before, getting something like a Logitech C920 webcam, they're very inexpensive. It's quite old technology, but that's going to really make a big difference. And ideally a microphone, because although we keep going on about video, the forgotten bit is the audio. And if your audio isn't good, people are going to switch off. So something like the Blue Yeti microphone or something similar to that is great. But then we come on to the tools that you use, and it really depends whether you're using a Mac or a PC. And I've used both Macs and PCs. I'm not going to get into the pros and cons, except for the fact that in order to go live from a Mac, it is going to be more expensive for you because Macs in general cost more money, and you need a kind of a higher end Mac, like a MacBook Pro. But it is potentially a lot easier from a Mac. So some tools. For a Mac, I would highly recommend Ecamm Live. It's the one that I use on a regular basis. It's really easy to use, yet very powerful. You can bring in guests from Skype. You can share your screen. You can you can put in videos, pre-recorded videos. You can do webinars. It allows you to broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter and Twitch. You can even do broadcasting to all of them at the same time if you really want.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a really good piece of software, and it's very inexpensive. It's around $80 as a one-off cost at the moment, although they may be changing that in the future. Right. If you're a PC user or a Mac user, then probably the one I'd recommend would be BeLive, which go live through your browser. This one's a monthly fee. There is a free version, but there is also a paid version. And this is even easier because everything is through the browser. You can go live to, it's just Facebook at the moment and Twitch. And you can bring comments in and bring guests in. The one that many of us started on is OBS Studio, and that's still an option that is available for PCs and Macs and even Linux if you want to use that. And that's a really cool piece of software. It's a little bit more geeky and a bit more difficult to do some of the other things I mentioned, like bringing in comments and stuff.
I think OBS recently have made some big changes, I've noticed, because they've seen guys like, we use StreamYard for our browser. So StreamYard is another one. You just jump into the browser and that takes care of everything. Again, it's not perfect. It's one of those, like every tool, I find that one tool does 90% of what I need it to do. And another tool does another 90% but ignores 10% that the first one did. Like we sometimes use Zoom, for example, for our live broadcasts. And I find that because I use Zoom all the time, it's very easy. But the integration between Zoom and Facebook is atrocious. There's no comments. Like nothing gets passed between them. So, it's about finding what's right for you. There's no perfect solution for it.
And I think it depends on the kind of live video that you're doing. So for Zoom, Zoom is great. You have to have the webinar add-on. So it is a slightly more expensive version.
Oh, that's true.
The Pro version, which is about $15 per month, doesn't have this. You have to get the webinar add-on. But if you have that, it's a really quick and easy way to go live. It's just, it's not going to look amazingly pretty. It's not going to have all the features, but for certain things, makes perfect sense. For StreamYard is great. BeLive is great. These are all very simple things. If you want to take things to the next level, then there are some other software out there, such as there's Wirecast, there's vMix. So Wirecast is for Macs and PCs. vMix is just for PCs. That's the high-end stuff, but you're starting to kind of get into the several hundreds of dollars at that point. So I think don't worry about that. Just start off simple, and over time you can, as you gain confidence with your communication in front of the camera and with the technology, and your audience grows, and you totally see this as an integral part of your marketing, then later on you can go for these high-end solutions. But start off with something a lot more simple, because it's all about your message and your communication to your audience.
There's something that was explained to me, this is years ago, when live video was something that it didn't even really exist in the social space. You kind of had to hack it together. Was if a stand-up comedian can sell out a tour of tens of thousands of seats with essentially a curtain behind them and a decent microphone and some lighting, you don't need to have the Rolls Royce of editing software and webcam suites and all this stuff to be able to draw an audience. 90% of it is the story that you say, the message that you say. And a lot of the time when we look at, and I've talked about this on my YouTube videos, when people buy tools to start a process, they're like, well, if I buy this, then I'll start doing, live video or editing or whatever kind of creation that you want to do. In actual fact, you've probably got everything you need already. There's plenty of free stuff out there to start. You might as well start bad and get good and then realize what you want.
I love that. And I think it's true. I think for example, when I'm thinking about upgrading my camera, Who is that about? Is that about my audience, or is that actually about me? I kind of really want this new camera, and I want it to look good. I don't think it's not bad. I mean, I think it's not a bad thing to increase the quality. But that shouldn't be a barrier between you just getting on and doing it. So I totally agree. I think it's just get on and do it, and it is about the message. There was something else I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was. I'll hopefully come back to me, but it's definitely about just getting on with the message in front of the camera.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of beginning to wrap this up. We've talked about the initial like excuses that people have, right? And that's a big confident. I can even see like Confident Life behind you, and confidence is a huge part of it, of wanting to get onto camera. But they are pretty much just in your head excuses, right?
Yeah, there's a big whole that we could probably do a whole show on mindset. I mean, the whole mindset thing, and this is why I'm so excited about what I'm doing now, because it's to do with so many things I'm passionate about psychology and mindset, and it's about communication, and it's about technology, and it's about marketing and communication, the content. Sorry. So, it's all those things. But I think the only way is just to jump in the deep end and kind of embrace your flaws. And that is scary. I mean, I blame the school in a way. It's the school playground, you know, and, you know, I was born in England, but my parents are Scottish. I moved up to Scotland, got teased mercilessly for my English accent. I gained a Scottish accent quickly, then moved down to England again. So, I mean, my goodness, I was like, I was thinking about, you know, when I started doing live video, I was just waiting for the teasing to start and the bullying to start. But actually, do you know what? It didn't come, and even if it did, I just carried on with what I was doing. And I think we just need to do that, but don't try and do it alone. There are people out there that want to help you, whether that's your other business owners in your niche. Go find a safe place and go live there and encourage each other.
Yeah, no, I like that as well, a lot, that, you know, encouraging each other and getting other people on board. That's awesome. Ian, thank you so much for coming on, because like I said, we've been wanting to talk for a while now, and live video is such a huge thing. And I think what it was is I saw more content on you from live, and it kind of seemed like you'd hit your stride a bit, because it seemed like live video was something you were doing for your business, and now live video is quite a big part of what you want to do, right?
Yes, it's kind of, well, I'll be honest. I mean, this was not planned.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote a blog post about live video, and that like went completely mad. It had over 5 million page views. I started getting asked to be speaking about it on conferences. Thought, oh, right, okay, I better do something about this. And in fact, actually, I launched my first course on the back of that. And because I thought, people really want to hear about this. So it turned from something that's something that I did for my own business to something that is absolutely what I help other businesses with. And it's this integral part of what I do.
That's awesome. And Julia Bramble? She's down, and she's in my neck of the woods. She's just down the road from you. Yeah. So we do a live show every week called the Free Range Social Show, which is great fun. And I think that also reminds me of another really important thing is, which, you know, for me, because I'm teaching live video, I need to, one of the great things about that show is that it's a regular show, and it keeps me learning, continuing to learn, because I think one wise man said once that as soon as you know everything there is to know about something, it's time to give up. And that's like there's a big tie to that, and imposter syndrome to a start. The more I do talking about funnels, the more I'm like, man, I don't know anything. I really don't know what I'm talking about. You know, it's a gulf develops the deeper you get into a subject. And doing the regular calls, I think is a great idea. And kind of off the back of that, doing it regularly as well, just hitting that mark, just turning up, you know, every day, as they say. Live video is a great way of doing that. Like, it literally is free now to have your customers and prospects and leads watch you talk about something you can help them with, like, and for free. And at the end, you can say, hit me up, call me, jump on the website. Like, it just seems insane that people aren't taking advantage of this.
Yeah, well, we kind of know why, but we've come up with loads of ways to knock down those barriers and just get on with it.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah.
And you're talking at the Youpreneur with Chris this year as well.
Yeah, so Chris Tucker, he's got his Youpreneur Summit in November.
Summit.
There's a mid-year mastermind that I'm speaking at. I think it's in May. Awesome. Going to be talking about live video there, and also in San Diego, Social Media Marketing World in March, which is really cool. So, yeah, it's an exciting year.
You're blowing up. So, if people want to reach out to you or find you, learn more, what's the best way?
So the best place is my website, iag.me, or you can just find me. I've kind of carelessly scattered myself across all the social channels, so you can find me in most places there. And there's loads of articles on live video, and there's a guide that you can get on confidence, which is at iag.me/guides/confidence.
Perfect, mate. Well, we'll link that below and in all the materials in the show notes. Ian, thank you so much for coming on. Massively appreciate your time.
Well, thanks, Mike, for having me on.
No worries, mate. I'll speak to you later.
See you soon.
Bye now.